Welcome into Fantasy Baseball today on Wednesday, April 30th. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Chris Towers. Today on the show, we had some big offensive breakouts just around baseball. 4 different teams with double-digit runs scored here on Tuesday. We got some interesting pitcher questions, too high, too low, or just right, this or that. We're going to bounce around a little bit. Chris, we have made it through the first month of the season. How you feeling?
Yeah, we have, I guess. It's not May yet, but yeah.
We're basically there.
So. Yeah. It's the first month is always hard as an analyst. Like you know what it is. You know what I always forget every year. This is the third year I think I've been doing the Fantasy Baseball Today newsletter, maybe the second. It's like really easy to get excited about like waiver wire ads like the first couple of weeks, and then by this point in the year, it's like, ugh. Because, we got a little more information. A lot of the early season breakouts haven't. So, when someone has a good game in, the first week of April, you can be like, hey, maybe there's something here. When they have a good game now, it's like, well, yeah, they've had 20 bad games before this. So it's probably not real. That's tough. But it's baseball. It's fun. I love watching baseball every night. Love talking about baseball every night.
And here we are talking about baseball. Let's jump in.
Holy cow! How about that?
All right, Chris, for some reason we both decided to start with terrible pitching performances, and you are up first. Sandy Alcantara.
Yeah, because I figure I should address it at the top because I believe I called him a buy low candidate yesterday on the show, and now his ERA is at 8.31, I believe, for the season, which is really bad. If you're not familiar with how ERA scales, sub 4 is pretty good. Anything above 4, you start to get pretty bad. 8 is really bad. I know we got some new listeners, so I want to make sure that we're all on the same page here. And it continues to be the problem that has been there for Sandy Alcantara in his first 5 starts, which is just the stuff looks really good. The stuff looks more or less like you want it to. He averaged 96.1 miles per hour with the four-seamer. That's a little bit down, but not so down that you start panicking. He was getting whiffs on the changeup. It's just the command's really bad right now. He was bouncing stuff at multiple times throughout the game. I think there probably were 5 or 6 different pitches that bounced in front of home plate. Feel for the changeup, even though the results were okay. He didn't have it. The slider bounced a couple. I think there were a couple of wild pitches. He walked 5, and it's just the case that while he looks more or less like himself in a lot of ways, the execution's not there. And it doesn't matter how good your stuff is if you can't throw strikes consistently and you can't hit your spots. There was some weird miscommunication. I think they were having a pitch comm issue early on in the game as well. There was a point where he threw a fastball, and I'm pretty sure Agustin Ramirez was expecting a changeup, and he just completely whiffed on it. So, maybe things snowballed from there, although he gave up a home run to the very first batter. So I'm not sure how much we can blame that on that. But all of that being said, I stand by Sandy Alcantara as a buy low candidate. And I think at this point, it's probably a real buy low because I think whoever has him on their team is probably pretty frustrated by the whole experience. And you're going to need to wait. It's the kind of thing where Sandy Alcantara is talented enough that it could just be from one start to the next. The light goes on and he pitches more or less like we expected him to. He's not there right now. So even if you do trade for him, I think you got to sit Sandy Alcantara. I will say I wouldn't drop him. I just think he's too talented. The upside is too high. There are too many other boring pitchers out there that I would drop ahead of Sandy Alcantara. Even though, look, if you can't use a player, there's not much difference between that and dropping them, right?
But if you drop him and his next start is amazing, you might lose out on the opportunity to pick him back up on your team.
Yeah, you look around the league today and you're going to talk about Bowden Francis, but Eduardo Rodriguez is fairly highly rostered. Whoops, sorry. I know I was touting him as a streamer. Andrew Heaney had a bad start, and we didn't really buy into anything that he was doing before. I think it'd be much easier to drop either of those guys than Sandy Alcantara.
Yeah, Eduardo Rodriguez, man. I think it was 8 earned runs, 69 rostered.
Yeah, that was bad.
And go Bowden Francis. We're going to talk about him in a second. Sandy Alcantara, you said you're benching him, Chris, and I would agree wholeheartedly, except he faces the White Sox the next start. So are you still benching Sandy next time out? I kind of feel like you still should, but man, you don't want to miss out on a White Sox start, you know?
Like the thing is, what's the best start of the season so far for Sandy Alcantara? I think it was 4 strikeouts in 6 innings in his last start. That's the only quality start he had. That's the only one he's gone 6 full innings. So that's I don't know. I agree. It would be he's in the conversation to start against the White Sox.
Mm-hmm. I did have Sandy as part of our pitcher question segment for later on, and this is highly speculative. There's nothing to support this, but the control has been so bad, Chris. 4+ walks in 3 of 6 outings. It's 5.9 walks per 9. He almost has as many walks as strikeouts this season. Is there a chance that he's just not healthy? Because I feel like this is something you might see if a pitcher was not healthy. Just their inability to throw strikes.
There's a chance, sure, but there's been no indication besides the poor command. And given how much having a healthy Sandy Alcantara matters for the Marlins, because they're almost certainly going to be trying to trade him this summer, if there was even a whiff of something to be concerned about, I think they would sit him.
Yeah.
So I'm not concerned about that. And look, there's no guarantee he figures it out, right? It's also worth noting it's the Dodgers.
Yeah.
So he could pitch exactly the same against the White Sox and end up with a quality start just because the Dodgers have 8 guys in their lineup better than anyone the White Sox have. Is that overstating it?
Probably not.
Yeah. So I don't know. Andy Pages versus Luis Robert as a hitter right now. That's probably disturbingly close. So yeah, I would probably lean sitting him. He hasn't earned the right to stay in your starting lineup, but given the matchup against the White Sox, I could see it. But no, maybe something comes out, but I haven't seen any reason to think that there's a health reason why he's struggling.
Oh my goodness gracious. Player of the night for the wrong reasons, Bowden Francis. Regression alert. Up against the Red Sox, he got destroyed. Gave up 7 runs over 3 innings, 5 homers allowed in this one, 12 hard hits allowed, 97.8 average exit velocity against Bowden Francis in this one. And entering this start, each of his 3 main pitches had expected WOBAs over 350. The biggest thing for Bowden Francis last year was that, yes, he was a fly ball pitcher, but he was limiting barrels. So a lot of those fly balls were just turning into outs. That's how he was carrying no hitters into 7th, 8th, 9th innings almost with regularity last season towards the end there with Bowden Francis. But he's giving up a lot of barrels this season. It's turning into a lot of home runs. Clearly in this one, it's up to a 5.28 ERA, a 1.34 whip for Bowden Francis. Is this just a clear drop, Chris? Because I could still see him having value as a sparp in a points league, but he also is capable of crushing you in a given week. So where are you at? Is it just a full fade, full drop on Bowden Francis?
I'd hang on to him in a points league, although because this is the 2-start week, unless he gets pushed back for his second start, now you probably have to go 3 to 4 more weeks before he gets another 2-start week. And that's really the only time I would feel super confident starting him, even in a points league. So I guess you can make that case. The thing with Bowden Francis was I was open to last season being real to some extent, right? That there was some real skill here between average strikeout rate. Okay, that's not great, but very good control and very good quality of contact suppression. I was open to that being the case. And that's Kyle Hendricks. Kyle Hendricks made a career out of being exactly that. Average strikeout rates, great control, great quality of contact. The problem is that takes quality of contact especially takes a long time to know if it's a real skill or not. And the fact that he's come out this season and even before today, he had one of the highest expected WOBAs on contact of any pitcher, of any starter in baseball. That's a pretty good sign that last year was a fluke. And that's not to say there won't be stretches where Bowden Francis is useful, but it's to say that I don't think we give him the benefit of the doubt anymore, as like we were coming into the season. So I think in any non-points league, any league where his SPARP eligibility doesn't matter, I think Bowden Francis is a fairly obvious drop right now.
Agreed. 1000%. Roto head-to-head categories. You can go ahead and drop Bowden Francis for a streaming pitcher, whoever the hot hitter is right now. A lot of people need roster spots right now. Bowden Francis categories league. He's one that can go. Who did all that damage for the Red Sox? They hit 5 home runs. As we mentioned, Jarren Duran hit his 2nd. Alex Bregman hit his 6th. Christian Campbell hit his 4th. Continues great start to his career. Rafael Devers hit his 5th. And Wilyer Abreu, 3 for 4 with his 6th home run here. 293 batting average. Also has 4 steals. 963 OPS. And Chris, unless the Red Sox have only faced 4 left-handed starting pitchers this season, Wilyer Abreu is playing nearly every day. He has sat out only 4 games all season here. Quality of contact looks good. Expected stats look good. Plate discipline looks good. The more this happens, the more I am willing to buy in on this Wilyer breakout. Wilyer Abreu. That was interesting. I wanted to
Wilyer a breakout. Yeah.
Wilyer a breakout.
I think it works.
Let's go with that.
It looks like they have faced 6 left-handed starting pitchers this season. And I will, hold on, see how many times he started against them. I think 2, based on what you said. He has started 1 game against a left-handed starting pitcher. So
okay,
I think the schedule's been pretty favorable for the Red Sox. I think something like 30% of major league starters are left-handed. So,
but as he continues to do this type of damage, that has to earn him more playing time, right?
It's possible. I mean, we've said the same thing about a lot of guys, that it doesn't end up being true about, Pavin Smith. I feel like we've said that about, and Luis Garcia was kind of the obvious example last season where we kept saying that about, and it never came true, and it hasn't really come true this season, although he's been bad. So I guess that is why. But that's always a tough bet to make. Like this is, I mean, it's why I hate talking about relievers, right? It's hard enough to predict performance without also having to try to predict what a third party is going to decide to do in the future, that is different than what they've done in the past. I think it's reasonable to think that if Wilyer Abreu keeps being a 960 OPS bat, that he will eventually get a chance to play against lefties. Maybe they'll get some lefties on the schedule, and we'll find out fairly soon. I'm skeptical that will be the case, though.
All right, let's hit a quick break. When we return, we'll go over some of their big offensive breakouts. We'll do that right after this.
Get ready for a Sunday showdown on CBS and streaming live on Paramount+.
Welcome back in Fantasy Baseball. Today, the Red Sox were not the only team that went off on Tuesday. The Yankees, the Bronx Bombers, they showed up early on Tuesday. They started the game with back-to-back-to-back home runs and 4 total in the first inning. They wound up with 15 runs on 19 hits, 6 home runs total. They rudely welcomed Kyle Gibson to the Orioles, his first start of the season. Aaron Judge hit his 9th home run. Ben Rice, double dong, now up to 8 homers. Cody Bellinger hit his 3rd. I know Trent Grisham added his 9th home run of the season. Austin Wells hit one as well there. Wanted to just quickly comment on Ben Rice, because starting to, get some whispers of like, hey, what's going on with Ben Rice? Like, he's sitting out a little bit here or there. And I saw some can I drop this? Should I consider dropping this guy questions? Like, I don't think you should do that. Ben Rice still has 8 homers and a 998 OPS, a 387 on base percentage. There will be questions at some point this season, Chris. Giancarlo Stanton, I think, will be back at some point. He's started to hit a little bit. Maybe it's like a late May, early June thing for Stanton. And yes, life finds a way, but hopefully they do figure it out with Ben Rice. But it just kind of caught me off guard that people were starting to doubt him a little bit, and then boom, wake up call, Ben Rice.
Are you really surprised though?
I
guess
I shouldn't be.
I love everyone who listens to our podcast. There are some impatient people out there, and so much of this podcast is us just kind of repeatedly saying, be a little more patient. The season ebbs and flows for everyone. Every single player will have stretches where they struggle, stretches where they were awesome. From the best hitters in baseball to the very worst, there will be stretches where they are good and bad. And in Ben Rice's case, he has started 3 of the first 6 games against lefties, so it's not a strict platoon. His underlying numbers remain very, very impressive. They continue to suggest not only that he has earned what he has done so far, but arguably that he's been better than his underlying or his surface level numbers. His expected WOBA is 425. Wow. Now, he did underperform his expected WOBA last season. Maybe that's just there's something about Ben Rice that will make him underperform moving forward. But every skill indicator suggests that Ben Rice is a very good hitter right now. I have not even thought about dropping him where I have him.
All right, and then the Rangers also put up 15 runs on 18 hits. Unlike the Yankees, 0 home runs in this one, but each of Josh Smith, Jonah Heim, Marcus Semien, Adolis Garcia, Jake Berger, and Leody Taveras had multiple hits in that game. Definitely love to see it from Semien and Berger. We need a lot more of that. I mean, especially Semien. It's just been such a slow start. His OPS is still under 500, even after, I think, a 2 or 3 hit game here.
He's had a couple of multi-hit games since moving down in the lineup, I believe. I'm not sure.
I remember the first game he got moved down. I think he had a 3-hit game, and then kind of nothing after that, and then had this solid game here.
Yeah, it's 8 hits in 8 games since getting moved down. 1 homer, no extra base hits besides the homer. So yeah, still not great. Still not what we need to see from him. Okay, yeah. We need to see more from Marcus Semien, sure, certainly.
Mm-hmm. And then the Dodgers also put up 15 runs on 18 hits. That game just went final. We got position players on both sides of that game. It feels like we've been getting so many position players pitching early on in the season here. But Ohtani, sock in the shoe, his 7th home run, his 8th steal of the season. It's like just ho-hum. Obviously, Ohtani hasn't, he's not doing what he did last season, but it's still, 7 home runs, 8 steals, 288 batting average early on. It feels like we haven't heard anything about Ohtani this year.
He hasn't been great, and he's on, a 35 homer, 40 steal pace? Yes. Something like that? That's it's a 942 OPS, and I've seen people complaining about Shohei Ohtani so far, which tells you how absurd the expectations are for him. But he's 0 concerns there.
Yeah.
I will say just at some point, presumably he's going to start ramping up as a pitcher. I haven't really heard any. He had a couple of bullpen sessions a couple of weeks ago. I haven't really heard anything since then. I assume he'll get a few more days off when that starts happening. He'll get a few, he'll steal fewer bases as well. But okay, who cares? It's still Shohei Ohtani, right?
Yeah.
It's like what we said, okay, even if he's not quite as good, even if he's not a 40 steal guy, he's probably still 20 steals, and he's probably still a 45 homer guy. So yeah, no concerns there. Teoscar Hernandez, 30 RBI in 28 games.
Crazy.
I feel like he had a similar start last season, if I'm remembering. Only 16 RBI in the month of April. So might actually have a better season than he had last year, just because of how hot he's been to start the season.
Along with a 297 batting average, 9 homers, 926 OPS for Teoscar Hernandez. Tommy Edman stole a base. Take that, Scott. 1 for 2 with double, 3 RBI for him. Had a walk in that game. Andy Pages, we will get to him a little bit later on when we do this or that. Reminder that there is no FBT Express today on Wednesday when you're listening to this. The new schedule that we will publish, new schedule when we're publishing FBT Express, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. This full-length podcast, Fantasy Baseball Today, will remain unchanged. Still 5 times per week like normal. I saw somebody in the comments yesterday, Chris, said, 30,000 subscribers. Now you guys are starting to slack off. I'm like, come on, man. Are you serious? We're just changing things up a little bit, trying to figure out what works best. There's a lot going on early on in the season. And a reminder to subscribe to the FBT newsletter. If you haven't already, if you're watching on YouTube, scan that QR code. That will take you right to the website where you can sign up for free. That will be in your email inbox every weekday of the baseball season. Let's get into the news and notes. And Cole Ragans will not start on Wednesday because of that groin injury. Instead, the Royals are promoting pitching prospect Noah Cameron to make his major league debut. He's 25 years old, left-handed pitcher, changeup first, strong command, 5 starts at AAA this season, 3.22 ERA, 103 WHIP, 10.9 K per 9, and a near 16% swinging strike rate. I do remember we had Nick Pollock from Pitcher List on this podcast back in spring training, and he was pretty excited about what Noah Cameron was doing this spring. So this isn't a must add. This is like not even a deeper league, maybe AL only, but a name to watch. Chris, Noah Cameron, 5% rostered.
Absolutely, a name that I'm interested in watching make his major league debut. I'm interested. I might go back and listen to. Do you remember if it was the first or second time? It was the one during spring training.
Yeah, so the second time he was.
Because when I was reading the scouting reports and looking at some of the data for Cameron, it seemed like the fastball is pretty weak, and I know Nick's a big good fastball guy. We all
I think the velocity was up this spring, and that's something he was.
Yeah, in his AAA starts, it's been he sits right around 93 from the left side. The changeup is supposed to be really good, big 12-6 curveball. That's supposed to be pretty good as well. He throws a cutter a little bit. Very good AAA numbers. It's like a 2.50 ERA in 14 starts with a 30% strikeout rate. He was good at AA last season as well. There was a bit of a velocity jump last season. Not someone I'm expecting to stick around even necessarily because we don't know if it's a multi-start absence, but very interested to watch Noah Cameron make his debut for sure.
And speaking of pitching prospects, the Reds are promoting Chase Petty for Wednesday's doubleheader against the Cardinals. He is 22 years old, a first-round pick back in 2021. Big fastball, big slider, questionable control here, but 5 starts at AAA this season, 3.52 ERA, 130 WHIP, 10.6 K per 9, solid ground ball rate, 13.4% swinging strike rate, and just another name, deep league, someone to watch. Don't add him yet, but Chris, this is someone who has electric stuff. Chase Petty.
Yeah, this is one I did not see that he was getting the call, so that is exciting. He, he's a top 100-ish prospect overall. He's put up some pretty good strikeout numbers. It's just, iffy command, especially. So we'll see. We'll see what it looks like. I'm excited to see him get a chance as well.
Christopher Sanchez has been cleared to start Wednesday against the Nationals. He left his previous start with left forearm soreness. So velocity and control will be things to pay attention to from Christopher Sanchez. Ronald Acuna remains without a timetable. He was cleared to ramp up activities a couple weeks ago, but there has been no talk of a rehab assignment yet. Shota Imanaga left his start early on Tuesday due to leg cramps. At least he was able to get through 5 innings before leaving and wound up with the win in that one.
He left to start earlier with cramping too, right? One of his first couple of starts had am I remembering correctly? Am I making that up completely out of whole cloth?
I might be sure.
I'm known to lie.
Don't lie, Chris. That's not nice.
But either way, who cares? It doesn't matter. It's not a significant injury, or at least as long as there's nothing beyond cramping. Then it's just drink some water, suck on a mustard packet.
It doesn't. Oh gosh, are you a mustard guy?
That's what they do.
Are you a mustard guy, Chris?
Mustard has its place.
Well, outside of rubbing it on your chicken or turkey before you cook it, or I saw the look on your face. But haven't you been known to
mayo?
Oh, a mayo rub.
I did a mayo rub when I made my Thanksgiving turkey last year. I will say, I have done the mustard rub for like barbecue to help the spices stick to it. That's fine.
I could see that.
And those like Crystal or White Castle burgers. They're like sautéed in mustard, I believe. That's part of their process. So yeah, mustard's got plenty of place in the food world.
Yeah, this won't surprise anybody. I'm out on mustard, out on mayo. Nope, not for me. Yeah, I'm one of those kids that puts ketchup on their hot dog. I know. I just like lost.
Look, ketchup and hot dogs is fine.
I don't
mind
followers on Twitter or something like that. Jazz Chisholm left early with right side discomfort, and this is something to pay attention to. Extensive injury history, obviously. Sounds like he's going to go for testing on Thursday. So definitely something to watch there with Jazz Chisholm. AJ Smith-Shawver left his start Tuesday after being hit on the right arm by a line drive. And before he left, he was pitching well in Coors Field. 5 1/3 inning, 2 runs. 5 strikeouts, 9 whiffs on 59 pitches. That splitter continues to look really interesting for AJ Smith-Shawver. 25% rostered. Let's make sure he's healthy, Chris. But Smith-Shawver is someone I could see maybe having fantasy value in deeper leagues.
He's still 22, I think.
Yeah, he got called up so young.
He debuted at 20. A lot of development left. And so it wouldn't surprise me if he starts to figure it out here, but not a huge priority ad, but there aren't who was the best waiver wire pitcher on Tuesday? I don't think there was really anybody that I was super motivated to write about. No, the 2 that I wrote about were Lance McCullers and Noah Cameron, and I'll add Chase Petty for tomorrow's article. But none of the guys who pitched on Tuesday really impressed me. So yeah, I think AJ Smith-Shawver is certainly talented.
Yordan Alvarez was back in the lineup after leaving early on Monday with that awkward slide. Royce Lewis is likely to be activated when the Twins begin their next homestand on May 6th. Austin Hayes has a tender hamstring and will undergo further testing. He dealt with a calf injury earlier on in the season, and just terrible timing because he's locked into your lineup, and he was off to this tremendous start. So hopefully it's not too serious. Dylan Moore was placed in the IL with right hip inflammation. Shane McClanahan has begun throwing like activities, but is not playing regular catch just yet.
I have questions.
Yeah.
Like tossing?
Or
like air, because I know they do like
simulate motion, right?
Yeah, they do the towel thing. I don't know if you've ever seen that where they like pretend to throw a towel. Some guys do that to warm up. So maybe, I don't know. That's a funny phrasing.
Yeah. Josh Lowe could begin a rehab assignment as soon as Saturday. He's been out with the oblique injury. Ranger Suarez could rejoin the Phillies rotation this weekend against the D-backs. Speaking of the Phillies, prospect Andrew Painter will start at AAA on Thursday. His first 3 starts came in Single A.
I really appreciate that the Phillies are only having Andrew Painter start where we have StatCast data. That's actually really considerate of them because we'll get to see what he looks like throughout. And from what I've seen, it's been awesome so far.
The expectation is still June-ish, July, right?
I would think June at the earliest that he's pitching in games in the majors. No matter, I don't think they could have 6 starting pitcher injuries, and I don't think we'd see Andrew Painter before then.
Yeah. Shane Bieber is set to throw in simulated games in the Arizona Complex League. It sounds like he's expecting to return closer to the All-Star break. So reading more about that, the Marlins being a little bit more aggressive on Yuri Perez. He's younger, obviously. Shane Bieber said he's deliberately waiting. He doesn't want to return too soon. He doesn't want to,
This is his second, right?
I'm not entirely sure.
Okay.
But yeah, he's kind of playing in a little bit safer here with Shane Bieber. And the Blue Jays activated Dalton Varsho, who made one of the craziest catches of the season, Chris. Did you see that?
Not even of the season. That was
all time.
Tripped on the warning track, fell down, caught the ball behind his back. That was bonkers. I love when you make a bad play and turn it into a great play.
Yeah.
That's always fun.
Dalton Varsho, 23% rostered. Any interest in 5 outfielder leagues?
5 outfielder leagues, sure. We know he's not a particularly good hitter. It's 15-ish homers and 15-ish steals. I don't think there's a big ceiling there, but yeah, sure. I think if you need a little bit of speed, especially, then Dalton Varsho has some appeal.
All right, let's take our final break. When we return, I've got questions, and hopefully Chris has answers. We'll discuss right after this quick commercial break. Welcome back in Fantasy Baseball today. I've got pitcher questions, and I hope that Chris has answers. Jacob deGrom had one of his better starts of the season up against the Athletics. 6 shutout innings, 7 strikeouts, 16 whiffs on 65 pitches. And you might be wondering, 65 pitches? What's going on here? Well, the score was 12-zip after the 6th inning, so they chose to play it safe here. And Chris, I guess this isn't really a question rather than a statement. Maybe you agree, but it kind of feels like Jacob deGrom is relearning how to pitch at this velocity. And the last 3 starts, only 3 earned runs allowed, 20 strikeouts to 1 walk. I think he's starting to figure it out.
Yeah, I think if there's a problem with Jacob deGrom, it's probably one of perception, right? Like, because his name is Jacob deGrom and he pitched like an elite closer, but as a starter for 5 seasons, I think people were just like, okay, he's just going to do that. He's healthy. And I was never quite as sure that was going to be the case. And I'm still not. Like, I think this is the closest he's looked to the classic Jacob deGrom that we've ever seen. Especially the 4-seamer. The velocity was up a little bit, 97.4 miles per hour. Still well down from his peak, but it was up about a half mile per hour, a little more than that from where he'd been this season. And he got 8 whiffs with it. It's the first time that he's really had the elite whiffs with the 4-seamer. And that's been the biggest difference for Jacob deGrom. It's just the 4-seamer hasn't been a dominant pitch for him. 18% whiff rate entering today. That's the lowest it hadn't been below 25% since 2017, I think. No, 2016, when it was 24.9%. And the velocity is the lowest it's been since 2019 as well. I think Jacob deGrom's really good. I think on a per inning basis, I probably expect him to be a top 15 starting pitcher the rest of the way. Is that going to be worth what you drafted him for? Well, if he stays healthy, probably. I don't know how to factor in the injury risk here. Do I think throwing less hard? Like, my thought has always been, not just for Jacob deGrom, but for every pitcher, it's not the max velocity you throw at. It's not how hard you throw, because every pitcher is different. Everybody's built to withstand different things. And I think it's more about how often you are pitching near your max. And I just have no idea. Like, is Jacob deGrom still capable of hitting 101 and sitting 99 and he's intentionally throwing 97? Then I think he's probably more likely to stay healthy. I just don't know if that's the case. Like, that's what he said, but I don't know. Like, because I don't think he would come out and say, I can't throw hard anymore. So I say it all to say that I think Jacob deGrom's going to be good moving forward. I think he's going to be very, very good. I think he's going to be an ace. I'm still not expecting Jacob deGrom to be who he was from 2019 to 2023 when he was on the mound, right? Like the 12 K per 9, the sub 2 ERA. I don't think he's that guy anymore. I still think he's really good, though.
Yeah. And obviously ranking him is one of the toughest things to do for us as part of our job. But, instead of expecting him to pitch like a top 5 pitcher when he's healthy, you're expecting something like a top, 12 to 15 starting pitcher when he's healthy. But also you have to factor in that injury risk. And because of that, maybe you drop him down a little bit lower. So maybe, he's you rank him as like a top 24 starting pitcher rest of season, just so you do factor in a little bit of that injury risk with deGrom moving forward.
He's in the 16 to 20 range, I'm pretty sure, for me.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
And it's kind of similar to Spencer Strider, without the hamstring injury, right? Like I don't think he's going to be the best pitcher in baseball. I think he's going to be must start. It's just I don't know how to account for the injury risk with either of those guys.
All right, let's talk about Carlos Rodon, who makes it 3 strong starts in a row. This one at the Orioles. I believe he took a perfect game into the 6th inning of this one. 6 innings, 2 hits, 2 runs, 7 strikeouts, 10 whiffs on 91 pitches. And over his last 3 starts, it's 19 innings, only 6 hits allowed, 2 runs, 7 walks is high, 24 strikeouts for Carlos Rodon. And the biggest thing that stands out this season, Chris, the ground ball rate. 47% ground ball rate for Rodon, who in his career has been a fly ball pitcher. So the question here, is this the best version of Carlos Rodon we've seen for the Yankees? One that is putting the ball on the ground more?
The best version that we've seen for the Yankees, yes. This is another one where I don't think that Giants era upside is here at all, because the fastball just isn't the same kind of dominant pitch. But like the fact that he's getting more ground balls, well, that makes sense because he's going from a 90 to 92% four-seamer and slider usage at his peak to throwing changeups 15% of the time and sinkers about 10% of the time before this start, and curveballs about 8% of the time. And so those are 3 pitches in particular that you would expect to generate more ground balls. So I think the command is going to come and go. It does from pitch to pitch with Carlos Rodon, frankly. But I do think the loss of his dynamic fastball has forced him to become a more complete pitcher. And I do think this is going to be his best season with the Yankees if he stays healthy.
Let's talk about Taj Bradley, who turned in a quality start against the Royals. 7 innings, 2 runs, 3 walks to 2 strikeouts. Did allow some hard contact in this one. Just seems like a really confusing pitcher so far this season. It's 3 strikeouts or fewer in 3 straight. The control has not been very good for Taj Bradley. He's doing, I can't even say, I was going to say okay job keeping runs off the board, but it is a 4.58 ERA for Taj Bradley. So what have you made of him so far this season, Chris? Is this definitely someone that needs to be held on to?
Yeah, I'm not dropping him, but the lack of strikeouts especially has been concerning. And you try to look for like one specific culprit, and it's just kind of all of his pitches have not been getting the whiffs that we're used to. But I don't see anything that really stands out that should make that the case. He is throwing his 4-seamer around as hard as he did last year, but everything else is up pretty consistently. His curveball's up about 2 miles per hour, almost 3. Cutter and splitter around 1 to 1.5 miles per hour. So there could be something to just not getting as much velocity separation and hitters being able to time him a little better. That could be an explanation for why Taj Bradley has just been a little underwhelming. Nick Pollock has this term, he calls pitchers like this cherry bombs, and I think that's what Taj Bradley is, where there's going to be some really exciting moments, and there's going to be some real blowups, and it's going to be hard to ride the ride. We need more strikeouts to make that ride worth it, though. So that's the thing I want to see him improve on moving forward. I'm not dropping him, but certainly not a must-start pitcher right now.
All right, let's talk about Freddie Peralta, who had a quality start at the White Sox. 6 innings, 3 hits, 2 runs allowed, 5 strikeouts, and his velocity was way down in this one. All 4 pitches down between 1.6 and 2.1 miles per hour, and I didn't see anything or any reason or read any quotes or hear just anything about the velocity being down here. I did just kind of pose the question on Twitter and asked if anybody saw anything, and I had a couple of people speculating that like maybe things were just off in that stadium because like the velocity was down for all the pitchers in that game. So it is a possibility here, but any concern on the velocity for Freddie Peralta?
Maybe. Like if he's hurt, then yes. If not, then I would think it's probably
pitched pretty well, but
he still pitched pretty well. Look, the thing with Freddie Peralta this season, and I don't think we've talked enough about him because he's just been good. It's a different version of Freddie Peralta. than the one we've historically gotten used to, which has always been very fastball heavy, still fastball heavy. But then the slider has always been the clear number 2 pitch for him, throwing it between 19 and 27% of the time over the previous 3 seasons. This season, his slider usage entering today was 8%, and he only threw it 6 times on 93 pitches today. So that is interesting. He's also throwing his slider harder than ever. So it's a different type of pitch, and his curveball is now the pitch that he's throwing 13% of the time, and the changeup's been the number 2. Well, all 3 of those pitches have been awesome. They've been getting tons of whiffs before today. Curveball was okay today, but everything else only 2 and 1. But yeah, it's a different version of Freddie Peralta. I hope that there's nothing wrong with him, because I think he's a must-start pitcher the way he's pitching right now. So as long as it's just a one-off, I'm not worried about it.
All right, control problems continue for Bryce Miller. 5 shutout innings, 5 walks, 6 strikeouts. He now has 4+ walks in back-to-back starts, 3+ walks in 4 of 6 outings this season. He only had 3 or more walks in 5 of 31 starts last year, and control was a calling card for Bryce Miller. The question here, Chris, was what is up with the walks? But I will answer my own question, because I saw this tweet from Daniel Kramer, who covers the Mariners from MLB.com, after the game. A frustrated Bryce Miller said that his back, quote, locked up on him pregame to the point where he opted not to sit down in between innings and make it worse. He also dealt with arm soreness earlier this month, which sounds kind of scary. Arm soreness.
Extremely scary, yes.
And yeah, his back locking up on him, and, you know, like losing control is, you know, could sometimes kind of preface a pitcher injury coming. I hope that isn't the case, but seeing a quote like this it's kind of scary.
It's certainly not what you want to see from a guy who's been just a little bit off in the early going. The walk rate double what it was last season. You look at today, he was struggling to throw the sinker in the strike zone. He was kind of struggling to throw the splitter in the strike zone, although that, you know, you're kind of used to that. I don't know if he didn't have the feel for the knuckle curve, which he's thrown about 13% of the time this season. He only threw 2 of them today. Just feels like he's going through it and may not be 100% healthy. You know, that note about the back and the arm soreness certainly makes me think that he just hasn't been healthy. And I don't know, like, is he likely to turn that around and get healthy? Well, pitching through it probably isn't going to help. So
right.
That's concerning, but
I almost wonder if he himself or the Mariners are maybe pushing him a little bit just because they have so many injuries.
That's
already.
the concern. Yeah. With Logan Gilbert and George Kirby already on the IL, they're 2 horses like that. I think if circumstances were different, you know, if Emerson Hancock wasn't already in the rotation, they might just sit Bryce Miller down. And the concern is obviously, one, that he gets hurt worse and can't pitch, but 2, just that he never gets right as a result of it and just kind of muddles through the season. It's not like he's so proven that we can say for sure that Bryce Miller's an ace. So, you know, I'll be updating my rankings later this week, and I think Bryce Miller is someone that I've kind of dropped a little bit. I think it's probably been more guys rising above him, and then my most recent update, I do think I dropped him a little bit. He's down to 30. That feels too high. You know, I would rather have Jack Flaherty than him. I might rather have Brian Wu than Bryce Miller at this point. I think Brian Wu is actually the better pitcher. If Bryce Miller's not 100% healthy, I don't really know how I can ding Brian Wu for potentially getting hurt in the future, perhaps. So yeah, I do think Bryce Miller probably going to drop more to the 40. Right? Like, would you rather have Jesus Luzardo or Bryce Miller?
Luzardo has a bunch of injury risk himself.
Yeah.
Love what I've seen this season. That is a really good question. Knowing what we know right now, I think I'd probably say Luzardo.
Would you rather have Nick Pivetta or Bryce Miller?
I don't think I would. Nick Pivetta is doing like He looks a little bit different this year as a pitcher, and obviously pitching
Mhm.
in San Diego, I think he can have a better season than he did have in Boston. I don't completely buy it, so I think I wouldn't take that. But if I have Bryce Miller right now, and anyone who hasn't like read or heard this news, I might try and flip him for like a top 30 starting pitcher and
Sure.
someone that you don't have injury concerns about right now. So
Yeah, like, because my thing is, I get the concerns we have about Jesus Luzardo and Brian Wu. Like, I get that. If they're currently healthy and Bryce Miller isn't, does it really make sense to ding those guys for injuries relative to a guy who is already dealing with something? I don't know. It's a fair question, but I tend to lean, just give me the guys who are currently healthy and stop trying to predict the future.
well, speaking of Nick Pivetta, 5 1/3 innings, 3 runs, 9 strikeouts, 10 whiffs on 89 pitches. And he's allowed 3 earned runs or fewer in all 6 of his starts. He has 6+ strikeouts in 4 straight. Chris, is Nick Pivetta a breakout, or is this a sell high?
Maybe both. I can straddle that fence. Like, I don't think he's a sub 2 ERA guy. He has a 1.78 ERA. I still might put my expectation for him the rest of the season at a 3.78 ERA, given how much he historically has struggled with hard contact. Now, that hasn't been an issue for him. He actually, like, his strikeout rate's a little lower than it was last season. The walk rate's basically identical. And the biggest change is that he's just giving up so much less, not even hard contact, because his hard hit rate is actually the same. It's just he's giving up less productive contact. His expected WOBA on contact, 384 last year, 347 this year. He's gone from below average to slightly better than average. Given his history, given how long that stat takes to stabilize, I tend to assume that Nick Pivetta will regress in that regard and probably be more of a mid to high 3s ERA guy. That would still be the best season of Nick Pivetta's career. So again, I think both.
Would you, if you could, turn Nick Pivetta into like Zach Gallen or Luis Castillo, would you do that? Or would you try and shoot higher?
I certainly have those guys ranked higher than Nick Pivetta. I would try to get more, for sure.
All right. Makes sense. This or that, transitioning here, who would you take among these waiver wire options? Would you rather have, Chris, Nate Lowe or Kyle Manzardo? Nate Lowe hit a clutch home run in the 9th inning here, his 6th home run of the season. He's got 23 RBI, 775 OPS, 56% rostered. And Kyle Manzardo also hit a clutch home run. He walked it off against the Twins, 2 for 3 with his 8th home run. He has an 881 OPS, 63% rostered, and now has first base eligibility. So
it's nice.
This or that, Nate Lowe or Kyle Manzardo?
I think I will give Manzardo the edge. I think Nate Lowe has just been kind of underrated since the offseason. No playing time concerns in that Washington lineup. He's hitting in a good spot. I'm pleased with what he's done. I think the RBI especially should be pretty good at the top of that lineup, but I think Manzardo has a little more upside. Yeah.
Jorge Polanco or Gleyber Torres? This is just a travesty. I should have talked about Jorge Polanco sooner because he just continues to mash. Gleyber Torres, a name we haven't really talked about very much, 3 for 5 with a sock and a shoe. His 3rd home run, his 4th steal. He's also hitting 292 with a 794 OPS, 73% rostered. So these are very shallow league names here. Polanco, 2 for 3 with a double dong, 5 RBI, hitting 389, 9 homers, 1242 OPS. I think I know the answer, Chris, but Polanco or Gleyber Torres?
Well, yeah, like I see in the notes and it says 25 homer, 33 steal pace for Gleyber Torres.
Is that right? Did I make that up?
Well, I mean, it might be right. I don't know. He's played well because he missed time. He has 3 homers and 4 steals in 18 games. So if you put that to 162 game pace, that's probably right. It's also like before today, it was probably, I don't know, 15 homers and 22 steals or whatever. So it's like having the sample size is small enough that trying to pace it out is going to lead to some wonky stuff. So yeah, I'll go with Jorge Polanco. I don't know. Gleyber hasn't really been doing like like I said, the home run and steal really make things look a lot better because of the small sample size. I don't really see, like, I think the batting average should be pretty useful moving forward, but I still think he's going to struggle to hit for consistent power in that ballpark. So I would take Polanco. Yeah.
The plate discipline for Gleyber, 7 walks to 7 strikeouts on the season. It's a sub 10% T rate and sub 10% walk rate so far.
And all the plate discipline stuff looks much better than it has. Lowest chase rate of his career, highest zone contact rate. Like, he looks good.
The expected stats look pretty good too.
Yeah, it's a very small sample size. So I'm going to treat it with with a lot of skepticism.
Yeah, and Polanco has just looked so great overall. So I agree with Polanco over Gleyber Torres, and just trying to figure out how high can I get Polanco in the second base rankings, because he is someone that needs to climb quite a bit. I think probably in like the top 15. I see Scott updated it, and he has Polanco at 14th in second base rank. So
yeah, I haven't done it
since.
Yeah, in points especially, because points is the worst format for like Andres Jimenez and Bryson Stott and even Brandon Lau and Luis Garcia and Jackson Hall. Like, yeah, I could see moving him to the top 15. I haven't done it yet, but that's definitely a name to consider when I do it. Probably on Thursday is when I'll do my update.
This or that, Andy Pages or Jordan Beck. Andy Pages, a sock and a shoe, his 6th home run, his 3rd steal. The home run did come off of a position player here. Jordan Beck has looked pretty great recently. He's had some big power speed games so far. I believe I asked you this exact question on the FBT Express, Chris, but I'll ask you again because Andy Pages, another big game.
I think I said Jordan Beck, and I think I'll say Jordan Beck again.
Okay.
That's kind of a little bit of a mystery box thing. His minor league numbers are pretty good, and he gets Coors Field, so I would give him that just because Pages is fine. I don't think there's a huge ceiling with Andy Pages. I don't think he's like a great hitter at his best, but Jordan Beck probably won't be either, but Coors Field could inflate it enough to make him seem like a very good hitter, or at least a very good fantasy option, I guess is the way to put it.
All right. Roster rate, too high, too low, or just right for these names. Carson Kelly did it again, 3 for 5 with his 7th home run of the season. He has a 524 on base percentage. Like, what is going on with Carson Kelly? 63% rostered, Chris. That, I don't know, too high, too low, or just right?
It's hard for it to be much higher unless he's going to play more. You know, he started 4 of the last 8 games. They like Amaya.
They're basically splitting time evenly.
Yeah, and like the thing with Kelly is he tweaked his batting stance a little bit. I think he brought his feet closer together or pushed his feet further apart, and is taking a smaller leg kick when he swings. His bat speed is up about 1.5 miles per hour from last year, which is not insignificant. Does that mean we should buy a 478 expected WOBA, which would make him the best hitter in baseball? No, of course not. But I don't know. Like, I think he probably should be rostered in every 2-catcher league and probably not in 1-catcher leagues, you know?
So, yeah, I mean, at 63%, it might be too high for Carson Kelly.
I wouldn't say it's too high. Like, ride it as long as it just, I don't expect this to last. But it's like he has a 9% strikeout rate and a 26% walk rate. For his career, it's a 20% strikeout rate and a 10% walk rate. I have no idea what to make of this. He's playing out of his mind for 66 plate appearances. I assume it's just a fluke, but I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, once upon a time, he was a prospect of note, and
a decade ago.
Yeah, it was a long time ago indeed. So, yeah, I think 63% is probably fine. I would not take him over, Augustine Ramirez or Hunter Goodman or Sean Murphy, any of those things to talk about. But, once we get outside the top 15 at catcher, sure, you can just ride the hot hand with Carson Kelly. Luis Angel Acuna has low-key been pretty good, 2 for 4 with his 7th steal. He's batting 300, no home runs in the season. Not really sure where he can play outside of just against left-handed pitching, but 29% rostered. Chris, what do you think? Too high, too low, or just right?
Probably just right. I don't think he's as good of a hitter as he's shown so far. I certainly don't think he's a 300 hitter. And yeah, I don't believe he's an everyday player. So yeah, that's I think that's probably just right.
Andrew Heaney, you guys were all over this one. I tried to give him the benefit of the doubt, maybe have a little bit more faith here, but not good against the Cubs. 4 2/3, 4 runs allowed, 3 walks to 0 strikeouts, 2 homers allowed for Andrew Heaney. 76% rostered. This is too high, right?
Way too high.
Yeah. People chase 2-star weeks, man. And yeah.
Like fine for a 2-star week.
Right.
But it's too high in general.
Drop him for Tony Gonsolin. Let's see what he does in his
absolutely.
debut on Wednesday. Race Olson, a mixed bag at the Astros. 5 2/3 innings, 3 runs, 3 walks, 7 strikeouts, 18 whiffs on 90 pitches. That is pretty impressive there. Up to 86% rostered. He had the 2-star week lined up this week. He was a sleeper that we liked this season. What do you think about that roster rate, Chris? Too high, too low, or just right?
Feels a little high.
I think the 2-star week definitely helped that.
Yeah, I think like fluctuating between 75 and 90% is where Reese Olson's going to be, because I don't think he's a must roster player. I do think he's talented, and there's a chance, he's got that slider and changeup. They're awesome pitches, and the curveball was really good today. He got 4 whiffs with it. That was surprising.
And he's fading the fastball like we wanted him to.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think mixing in the sinker more and fading the 4-seamer especially is the right call, because neither's good, but at least the sinker tends to get hit on the ground more often. So it's going to turn into singles rather than doubles and home runs like the 4-seamer. I think Reese Olson's pretty good. I don't think he's a must roster player though.
All right, and then 2 other names, deep league names. Ryan Gusto, he was okay against the Tigers. 4 1/3, 2 runs, 6 strikeouts. Did have 12 whiffs. Completely changed his pitch mix in this one. He's 29% rostered. And Michael Lorenzen had a great start at the Rays. 6 innings, 1 run, 4 strikeouts. All right, maybe I stretched it. It was a good start against the Rays. Only 6 whiffs here, but velocity was up in this one, and 1 earned run in back-to-back starts here for Lorenzen, who is 35% rostered. So what do you think about those 2, Chris? Gusto and Lorenzen, just deep league names for now?
Yeah, I wouldn't say either's too low. I don't know if they're too high. I don't really believe in Gusto, but at least he's young, and well, youngish. He's like 26. And the fastball has been a good swing and miss pitch. So, I do think there's some room there for him to grow. And hey, 2 starts next week versus Cincinnati at Milwaukee. I'm fine with that pushing to 50%. It's just, I don't want to say it's too low in general, because I don't think Ryan Gusto is someone who should be a priority target, who should be rostered everywhere. And then Michael Lorenzen, I mean, we know what this guy's deal is. He goes through these stretches where he gets good results. The first half 2 years ago, he had a stretch last year as well where he was pretty good. It almost always falls apart. It's almost never like so good that you have to have him around. Like even now, 3.48 ERA. Well, that's pretty good. 137 whip. That's pretty harmful. Not a lot of strikeouts. That, I don't think Michael Lorenzen's someone who needs to be added.
Let's wrap up with some leftovers here. And Tanner Bybee had his best start of the season. 7 innings, 1 run, 5 strikeouts to 0 walks. Getting that control is obviously great for him in this one. Probably the best the cutter has looked this season. Garrett Crochet, 7 innings, 2 runs, 6 strikeouts at the Blue Jays. Zach Wheeler, a quality start up against the Nationals. 6 2/3, 2 runs with 7 strikeouts. And Mackenzie Gore, a quality start, 6 innings, 3 runs, 6 strikeouts at the Phillies. And it is now 2 walks or fewer in 6 of 7 starts for Mackenzie Gore. So that is pretty awesome to see. Anything else to add on Gore, Wheeler, Crochet, and Tanner Bybee?
Yeah, Crochet and Wheeler both look like relative buy low candidates. If anyone's worried about them at all, I think that looks worse. Calling them buy lows is harder to justify after they've had good starts, but it's been a little rocky at times for both of them. Crochet has even talked about he just hasn't felt like he's had his best stuff this season, and yet it's a 3.51 ERA and 13K per nine, which tells you what kind of pitcher he is. I think they'll both be great moving forward. Obviously, I like Wheeler more. He's more proven. Similar upside. Maybe Crochet has a little more strikeout potential. The only thing with Crochet is just he's looked a little wonky so far. Yeah. And there is something in the back of my head that's like, well, if he's looked a little wonky now, what's it going to look like when he's pitching in competitive games in June for the first time in his career? You know, like
I was thinking more like July or August.
Yeah, right. No, I picked June to make the point that like that was basically when his season ended last year. Yeah. Was June. And so, you know, is he struggling a little bit because he's trying to hold back for the rest of the season? I don't know. But I'm not 100% convinced Garrett Crochet is going to be awesome all year just because it's uncharted territory from him. But I'm not concerned about how he's pitched so far. And then Mackenzie Gore, I mean, it's kind of like the conversations we have around injuries a lot, where it's like he's currently not walking anyone. And if he continues to not walk anyone, Mackenzie Gore will be awesome because the stuff is filthy. I just have like his next start, he could walk 4 and go on a stretch where he has a 12% walk rate for the next month and has a 6 ERA. That is well within the realm of possibility for Mackenzie Gore because that's what his career has been, is kind of turning on a dime. He had an awesome start last year too, and then was pretty miserable for a few months. So it's one that like the more good starts he has, the more I want to buy in, and the more I have to remind myself, we know he's done this before, and we can't guarantee that it won't happen again.
Yeah, his secondary pitches have been incredible this season. It was 21 whiffs for Mackenzie Gore against the Phillies in this outing. So, yeah, comes down to that control. And if he can continue to throw strikes, you might have one of the top breakout pitchers in fantasy this season. Some hitting leftovers, Junior Caminero. Caminero. 3 for 4 with his 6th home run of the season. Bo Bichette, he listened last night. The buy low window is closing. 2 for 4 with a double and his 3rd steal of the season. Seiya Suzuki, just doing his thing. Great start. 3 for 4 with his 7th home run. Pete Alonso, great start for him. 2 for 3 with his 7th home run. Kerry Carpenter, a name we haven't really talked about. 2 for 5 with his 7th home run. Some signs of life from Yainer Diaz. 2 for 4 with 3 RBI. Last 7 games, he's hitting .286 with 1 homer. So maybe a start of things to come. And Logan O'Hoppe, a name we also haven't really talked about, but he's been good. 1 for 3, 8th home run, 845 OPS. He's been good, Chris.
Yeah. I mean, like it's like a 40% strikeout rate for Logan O'Hoppe, I believe.
That's not good.
It was the last time I checked. Maybe it's gone down, but it's been way too many strikeouts, and he's hit for some good. It's up to 40% still.
38%.
Yeah. Okay. So it's gone down a couple points since I last checked.
My gosh, 4 walks to 34 strikeouts.
Yeah, and the homers were pretty concentrated early, and then he slowed down, if I'm remembering correctly, as well. But look, it's a catcher, right? So. It's a catcher with upside. I think on Sunday's show, we said, you know, we might drop Logan O'Hoppe for Agustin Ramirez. That's more about liking Ramirez than, at least for me, than disliking Logan O'Hoppe, because I think O'Hoppe's still like a top 12-ish catcher for me. It's just the strikeout rate is really alarming right now.
Kind of just feels like he is completely selling out for power this season.
Yeah.
Fly ball rate is up, hitting the crap out of the ball. 23% barrel rate entering Tuesday. I mean, that is a massive number for Logan O'Hoppe, but it is coming at the expense of strikeouts. And if that remains, the batting average will drop at some point. This is the profile of like a 220 hitter rather than a 260 hitter right now.
And then I did want to mention with Kerry Carpenter, he has started 3 of 9 games against lefties so far.
Progress.
So not a total platoon. He has 2 home runs against lefties as well. So that's a good sign. It's not proof that he's great against lefties. It's 23 plate appearances with like a 30% strikeout rate. So still a very small sample size, but That was more than I thought he had played against lefties so far. So that's a good sign.
The call to the bullpen for the Royals. Carlos Estevez gave up a hit, but struck out one for his 8th save. For the Phillies, Jose Alvarado entered in the 8th inning with a 1-run lead facing the heart of the Nationals lineup. First 3 hitters all reached. Then Alvarado struck out the next 3. That is just like the Jose Alvarado experience.
Yeah.
And then Orion Kerkering got the 9th inning. He, with a 3-run lead, he gave up 4 runs, only one of those earned, and he took his 3rd blown save. But the Phillies wound up with the win because Kyle Finnegan on the other side had a 1-run lead. He gave up 2 earned runs on a walk and a hit, took his 2nd blown save and first loss of the season. For the Tigers, so you thought Will Vest was the closer, huh? AJ Hinch laughs at you. Vest entered with 2 outs in the 6th inning of this game. 2 runners on, 1-run lead. Definitely a huge spot.
That's a high leverage spot. Yeah.
Maybe the biggest spot of the game. So it's just, okay, like, he's not a closer. He is maybe the highest leverage reliever. Gave up a 2-run single, and then he started the 7th inning. He gave up 2 more runs. The final line, 1 inning, 5 hits, 3 runs, 1 walk for Will Vest. So that is called regression for a good old Will Vest. For the Guardians, Cade Smith got the 8th inning with the game tied, facing 8, 9, and 1 in the Twins lineup. He gave up a hit and a walk. Emmanuel Clase pitched the 9th inning with the game tied. He gave up a hit and nothing else. He wound up with the win. And I wonder, Chris, just like that, Emmanuel Clase pitches the 9th inning facing the heart of the Twins lineup. I don't know. He might just be back in the closer role. It's a possibility.
Might be. It's also funny. I want to double check because I don't want to spread fake news, but okay. Emmanuel Clase is 1 win off the major league lead right now.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I had that in the notes. It's like, despite all the struggles, you have gotten 4 wins from Emmanuel.
I mean, that's you got to find a silver lining. And yeah, it's entirely possible that Clase and like Devin Williams pitched the 9th yesterday, right?
I think he pitched either the 8th or 9th when they were losing in the game. I think it was the 8th inning. They were down 1 run.
Okay. So. It's entirely possible. It just takes 1 or 2 outings for those guys to get their job back.
Yeah.
You know, because especially today when teams are like, they're going to be looking at all kinds of underlying data to try to figure out if these guys are back. And it might only take one good performance for them to get the faith back in these guys. So yeah, we're talking about pitchers who have been 2 of the best relievers in baseball for like half a decade. A month does not change how I view them. And I imagine their teams mostly view it the same way.
Yeah.
So it's entirely possible Emmanuel Clase is just the closer moving forward.
The only pause that I have with Devin Williams, and that could happen, is just that we saw Luke Weaver perform as an elite closer.
I mean, Cade Smith might be the best reliever in baseball,
right?
Based on what he's done since the start of last season.
I guess, I don't know. Maybe I put more stock in this, but just the fact that we've seen Luke Weaver close out games, we haven't necessarily seen that from Cade Smith before. For the Mariners, Andres Munoz struck out 1 for his 11th save, and for the Padres, Robert Suarez pitched a clean 9th inning for his 11th save. They are now tied for the league lead in saves this season. Andres Munoz, the guy just looks like a top 5 closer this season. Fantasy.
All it's ever been for Andres Munoz is just the usage.
Yeah,
that was the only thing holding him back from being an elite closer for fantasy. He's been that level of pitcher, and if they're just going to use him like a classic closer and he gets 35 saves, he's a top 5 guy.
To stream or not to stream on Wednesday, we have Tony Gonsolin's season debut against the Marlins, Tyler Anderson at the Mariners, Landon Roop at the Padres, Matthew Boyd at the Pirates, Lucas Giolito, his season debut at the Blue Jays, Tobias Myers at the White Sox, Shane Smith versus the Brewers, and Luis Severino at the Rangers.
Well, before the Rangers scored 15, I might have said Luis Severino, but I do wonder if that's just the light switch flicking on for them, because I do still think that's going to be a very, very good lineup moving forward. Matthew Boyd at Pittsburgh, Landon Roop at San Diego, although tough matchup. They don't strike out much.
And he's been walking a lot too.
And then Myers at the White Sox, I think, are probably the 3 best. Definitely want to watch Tony Gonsolin and Lucas Giolito, but I'd prefer not to stream them in their first starts.
Yeah, I like Boyd. I like Myers. I can see using Tyler Anderson and Shane Smith. obviously bad team, so like you're probably not going to get a win, but they have been fine so far this season. And then on Thursday, we have Colin Ray at the Pirates, Matthew Liberatore at the Reds, Chad Patrick at the White Sox, and yeah, that's about it. Do you like those three?
No. No, I don't I don't think Chad Patrick, like Colin Ray, Matthew Liberatore, they're okay talents. I don't think Chad Patrick is much of anything, but it's a good matchup. So
yeah,
if I have to pick three, those would be the three that I would pick, I guess.
All right, we're going to wrap there. For Chris, I am Frank. Thanks as always for tuning into Fantasy Baseball today. Please make sure to follow and leave a 5-star rating on Apple or Spotify, and we will be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.